Christmas Eve special. Sitting here all alone in the COVID world order. And before we get to the sock puppets, let's listen to a little Nixon, February 71.
We have now narrowed down the Vice President's problems on this thing to one issue, and that is whether we should include these health maintenance organizations like Edgar Kaiser's Trimet thing. Now let me ask you, you can give me your, you know I'm not too keen on these things.
You can read that, right?
This is a...
See, Nixon was going, I don't like doing any government kind of health care. But Ehrlichman is like, this is private enterprise one. And Nixon, oh, that's good. Kaiser's running this for a profit.
And the reason he could do it, I had Edgar Kaiser come in and talk to me about this, and I went into it in some depth. All the incentives are toward less medical care.
All the incentives are to less medical care. Because the less care they give, the more money they make. And Nixon's like, cool. This is the country we live in, man. So when you think Trump is the worst of the worst, no, he's just more of the same. We've always been we've always been ruled by psychopathic maniacs. And we will continue to be ruled by the psych. I'm glad to see the Trimet has their... Look at those pretty little yellow uniforms they've got. Sure, inspectors out on Christmas Eve. All right, there's something else I wanted to show you here. Oh, here it is. Yes, the Trimet bus got shot up tonight. And there's a nice bullet hole. You know, the dispatch sounded like that there was... yeah, see, the police investigation reveals suspect he was shooting at somebody in the bus. Yeah, great, man. You don't need any hazard pay. Hell no, you don't need any of that, man. All right. Listen to this.
I don't think the $2,000 checks make much sense. The real issue is going to be sustaining this expansion. If you think about it, the 908 stimulus bill probably would pay out $200 to $250 billion a month for the next 3 months. The level of compensation is running about $30 billion a month below what we would have expected it would. GDP is running about $70 billion a month below what we would have expected it would. So in a way that's quite unprecedented, we have stimulus already much more than filling out the hole. And given that lots of the hole is from the fact not that people don't want to spend, but that they can't spend because they can't take a flight or they can't go to a restaurant, I don't necessarily think that the priority should be on promoting consumer spending beyond where we are now. So I'm not...
Yeah, fucking millionaires. Oh, yeah, here's a goddamn another fake board search. I don't know. Maybe this time it might be real. The last two, let's see. Hansen was a fake. McFarland was a fake. And Kelsey was a fake. But they go to this whole big ordeal about pretending it's an international search, and then they just hire they're just as big liars as anybody in government. The board of directors will confirm the job description for the general manager as a start. Well, you don't have one. Generally, the general manager sits and leads the strategic direction of the agency, working closely with the community. Yeah, right. Sure, it doesn't work at all with the community. And collaborating with the Trimet elites. At Trimet, the general manager must assure a commitment to safety. They just put that in there because, I don't know, ever since the Sandy Day incident, they keep saying that over and over as if it meant anything. While implementing practices that demonstrate safety as a core value. God, this is unbelievable. a search committee consisting of board members will enlist the help of an outside recruiting firm. That's KL2 Connects. I've brought this up before. KL2 Connects. Here they are, these people. They're the ones that control all of these positions. It's a crony public transportation industry executive recruitment. So they'll probably give them like $200,000 to do this, because they have to spread that pork around. As well as an outside consultant who will engage with the search. All the people they have working at Trimet, they're going to hire another fucking consultant. The board of the Trimet will also begin laying out the process. They did this last time and it was all fake. Everything they do is fake. Fake, and more fake. I already know that it's all crap and bullshit. It's just government for you. Let's see what they got here. Some bullshit crap. All right. Well, anyway, let's go back to this bullshit board meeting where we left off.
So it touches everywhere. So yes, I totally agree with you.
I wonder how long they've actually known Kelsey was going to leave. I'll bet you it's been a long time. If you remember when they gave him his performance evaluation and that cheating liar, Bruce Warner, this guy, said, well, we're going to give you an extra month vacation because you need an extra vacation. Well, as I said at the time, now verified, I said he was going to cash that month out because that's how they do it. This is how these executives do it. They get this vacation time and they cash it out when they leave. It's a bonus hidden as something else. Because all of these people are career criminals and they steal from the public.
We'll be cutting that back as long as COVID is existing.
All right. Director Baumann.
What? What are they talking about?
Yes, thank you. If I recall correctly, I want to ask a question about capital projects that are being impacted. If I recall correctly, there's some projects associated with the formerly planned expansion that have been paused, and that includes the additional bus garages and so on. But can you talk about any other capital projects that are being paused because of these?
Okay, let's hear.
Budget constraints?
All right.
Sure. Some is for budget constraints, and I'll add on because I think you actually triggered me to this, Director Bowman, is some is also because demand now is down, and it's going to take longer for demand.
She asked you to tell her which capital projects are being cut. Answer the fucking question, you hack.
So we want to protect capital and thus cash preciously. So the Columbia bus base I'll use as a great example where it's a great purchase for us. We're actually using a small part of it for logistics and materials management. But some of the rest of it, because the speed of us expanding the service has slowed down, we are going to slow down the capital program related to actually redoing that whole bus facility.
All right, that's good.
So that's one example that's would typically be around.
All right, that's one good example. Good. I'm happy.
Around a $160 million project that may now be down to something far less substantial. That's one example. Another example is that we have a railway switch over by Holiday Rose Quarter area that is ready for replacement, or a piece of track. Its time is up.
Yeah, see, that's the beautiful part about light rail is that it always needs capital and projects to keep it running. That's why they love this so much, because it's built-in cash. It's a built-in cash cow forever. They always have to keep replacing shit. It's a built-in money funnel. Okay, so he's talking about a switch. He's not talking about like the better red, which we don't need. The better red, which I called out in the very beginning as being nothing but a pork barrel nonsense.
And so as opposed to putting in an enhanced, not only replacing the track, which we're going to do, it will go through the budget process, we're not going to put any extra fancy bells and whistles or extra switch outs on it. So we're just going to say, just replace the straight track, kind of replace essentially what's there. Versus if you had a chance for to improve some things.
Versus if you had enough money for another pork barrel, we'll just pork barrel it. Okay. Well, if we have enough money to just waste on a new switch, get it. Because that will help Stacy and Whitbeck.
You may pull back on the extras, and those are a couple examples.
That's it. That's the only two you can think of.
The refurbishment of the older Max cars, is that still going forward?
Yes. Yeah. So I'll maybe divide that into two parts. The replacement vehicles, that we call the Type 6s, it's about $150 million in capital. That order's out there, that manufactured, that is arriving. That'll be arriving in a normal, orderly process. In fact, we're continuing with the Ruby Junction, which is where these cars will come to. We're going through, as the board has approved recently, some upgrades to those facilities because we have to get ready to receive those. The other part is the maintenance of rehabilitating some of our Type 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s over the next number of years. That will continue and is under, that will go under review though. The first core over the next few years will for sure continue. We may look at the speed of some of those down the road a bit, depending on financial circumstance. But the main core for the next few years will continue.
Thank you.
Yep. So these are live examples. Yeah, these are great questions. These are live examples of trade-offs and choices, right? About having to managing like our homes, living within our means.
That's not much of a cutback, is it? I mean, it's like virtually nothing cutback. Yeah. He's not going to do a switch, and he's not going to do the bus garage very fast.
I guess related to that, when you say that, I thought I had the impression that Type 6 vehicles were maybe tied to the Southwest Corridor, but that's not right.
Well, they are in terms of an option, if we want to extend the option.
Whoa. Well, we've already found out that the Southwest Corridor is moving ahead. Just because the citizens voted no, that's not stopping it. And we already knew that, those of us that follow this information. We knew that wasn't going to stop it. They're coming back in 2022. In the meantime, they're just still plowing in all that payroll tax money into that criminal organization.
But the core purchase is really the Type 6s we're bringing in now are replacing the Type 1s that just break down all the time and we can't even get technological parts, etc. So the core order of the primary order of the Type 6s are replacing the Type 1s. Plus, if a few extras we would purchase, assuming it would be part of the red line expansion, which we are still continuing to pursue to get up to Fairplex.
And that should be canceled because that's completely unnecessary now. All that red line idea, that's completely unnecessary. Should be canceled, and he just said it won't be canceled. And that's like $200 million going into that. That's, total pork that's not necessary.
It is a bond-funded project, so we have proceeds on deposit to pay for that. Another example of a project that was affected is that we have put a pause on our bus replacements. That frees up some bond proceeds for us to use.
Of course. Cut the buses, of course.
On other projects that are bond eligible that previously we may have had general fund dollars on. So we're trying to manage it as strategically as we can.
I really trust you. Yeah, sure. Mm-hmm.
So a few years ago,
and the problem is that these people who have nothing to do with us out here in the real world make all of their decisions completely divorced from the real people. And that's government, man. All of government is operating like this now. All of government completely disregards what people need, and it's serving the interests of the people in the government now. It's no longer for us. It's for all of the people in the government and their contractor cronies. It's all for them.
At this point, the average age of the bus is around 15 years or so. We had some buses up as around 19, 20 years from just coming out of the last recession. Our average age of the fleet now, because we've been modernizing quietly in a real positive way, is just over 8 years. So we've got a real modern fleet, except for probably the back end numbers of the buses. So we're going to continue to watch that. And another area of capital that we're looking at is actually reducing what we call our spare ratio. There's the buses you need every day, and there's the buses that are needed to go in trains as well. for maintenance. So instead of having a 20% range of a spare ratio, we're going to look to drop that down to around 15, around the 15.
That's bad public policy, of course. So in other words, you're going to have more run cancel it. That's the last thing they should be doing is canceling the bus backup buses. I mean, they don't have buses now. I hear it on the radio. We don't have any buses. So what happens? A run I mean, the whole thing is a joke. I pity the people that are transit dependent in this country, because this is nothing but a industrial complex for special interests and should be avoided. I mean, you don't want to be stuck using any of but not anywhere anymore. Even places like New York and Boston now are completely useless. I mean, Trimet was always sketchy, but more of a small town, just for the commuters. But the world-class service like Boston and New York is gone. So the government has just left you out hanging. Again, if you expect this government to help you, you are an idiot. Just look at government for what it is, a parasite on you. Don't expect anything back. I'm lucky we're even getting our Social Security and my Trimet pension. I would imagine that somewhere down the future, not too distant, both of those things are going to disappear.
15% mark over time, which will save capital.
Yeah, well, that's the wrong place to save your capital.
All right, I see no other hands raised right at the moment. I just remind the board that this is a report that we'll get on a regular basis, and because we wanted it, because it's important to see, and obviously things have changed. You can see in just a couple months' time. So Nancy, Dee, Doug, good report. We look forward to the next one to keep us posted on how we're doing here as all of this COVID and decline in revenues and ridership.
All of this is done by the decline of the entire economic collapse has nothing to do with COVID. It has to do with government policy. It has to do with an oligarchy that is trying to starve you while enriching themselves. It's got nothing to do with the COVID as the excuse. All right, this is all criminal enterprise from Trimet to Trump and everything in between.
Goes on. So thanks for helping us out there.
Thanks for helping.
Bud, Doug, back to you on your board report.
Okay, thank you. Unless there's feedback otherwise, the next time, unless there's a substantial item that comes forward as intending to bring an update such as like this back to you in February's board meeting, unless the board felt otherwise needed.
Sounds good.
The next one up is just Ellen Lato is going to come in, and I know we spent a fair amount of time on the business plan back in the September board retreat, and just going to maybe Alan, just for a quick highlight, just for time's sake here, just to give an update on the next steps and where we are in the development of the business plan cycle.
Where is he? Where are you? This new world order is so annoying. Hello?
I don't know if we can hear you there, Ellen.
No, we can't.
That's a good report. Very short.
That's the best one of the day. Are you there, Ellen?
Sorry, I was double muted. I didn't want you to hear anything else, but apparently now you can't hear the important part.
We're good.
Thank you very much. I will be as brief as I can. Jeff, I'm not seeing the ability to share, so if you can give me that, or if you could pull up the materials, that would be great. I will just start talking in the meantime. There it is. Great. What I want to do here, obviously, is give you a quick reminder on our process for the... Sorry, it's sharing the wrong screen. My apologies. On the process for the business plan. As you remember, we bring a business plan to you in March each year that informs then the draft business plan, budget. And in order to do that, we need a draft of the business plan in January. And in order to do that, we need to make sure that we have the right priorities identified and the right strategic approach in this time frame. So during the earlier session with you all, we reviewed the strategic priorities and points of emphasis. And I just want to come back and touch on these very briefly to make sure there aren't additional comments and that you see that we've reflected the conversation that we've had with you all to date. I also want to reiterate that we will have that draft business plan for your review starting in January. At the same time, that business plan goes out to the public and to all Trimet employees for review and comment. That comment period lasts until March 1st, and then we're able to incorporate any comments that we get in the final.
Yeah, right.
So just to very briefly touch on these.
Yeah, I remember
the strategic priorities, points of emphasis, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and challenges, and the premises that I'm going to touch on are all at the beginning of our business plan, and they kind of set the stage for that. So again, not to belabor this, but just get the very, very high overview, and then happy to take any comments.
Yeah, I mean, we went over this already. I mean, this is all crap, enhanced riders. It's all bureaucratic shit, enhanced ridership and increased single it's just, this stuff is all out the window now, and they don't seem to get it. Enhanced customer experience. I mean, it's just this all the same crap we've been listening to for years with them. And they have not changed it. It's the same crap we've been listening to, and they think they're gonna. It just shows you how disconnected they are from reality. They don't have a clue as to the reality. They just keep moving forward with what they want to do.
We consistently build a culture of safety and incorporate
we've been
equity
listening
in
to
our
this for years,
decision-making
man.
activities.
This has been years of listening to this.
Some priorities that we've identified in 4 different categories of customers, internal business practices, people and innovation, and financial. And hopefully you can see my little pointer here. Enhancing ridership, obviously an issue with the depressed demand right now, and as we're recovering from COVID, looking to build back and grow upon that. Enhancing the customer experience, a critical part of supporting that. And enhancing access to transit, a critical part of long-term ridership growth. And expansion of mobility options for people across the region, regardless of what their mobility choices are. System safety and security, including the reimagining process and implementing that.
We've been hearing it for years.
Processes and systems, something that we need to do all the time. Our training strategy, which really supports that.
Ridiculous.
And then on the financial side, maintaining our current system so that we maintain a state of good repair, increasing available funding where we can, and managing our system and our fleet to increase ridership to support that. That's the overall set of strategic priorities. Moving on to the points of emphasis that we really dug deep in with you all during the last, not the most recent strategy session, but the previous, the points of emphasis specifically for FY 2022. Ridership and recovery strategies, of course, very key for where we are right now. Reimagine safety and security, as we've already talked about, but absolutely core to what we're doing in terms of comfort and safety on board. For all of our riders, and being welcoming to all of our customers.
Just crap.
Adding value to customers across the region, implementing the IT strategic plan, which is very much in the back of the house, but very important for making everything work, including our customer information, our HOP system, all of that. Enhancing equity for employees. This is something that came up in our previous conversation with you specifically about the business plan. Making sure that we are continuing to implement those recommendations from the Employment Diversity Report and striving for diversity within our agency so that we can better reflect our community and the needs of everybody in our community. Resource management, financial resiliency, absolutely critical, since you just saw in that budget report. And then the capital program, still moving ahead with those things that make sense, recognizing that we did get the results back on the Get Moving 2020 ballot and adjusting based on that. I'm going to pause for a moment just to make sure there aren't any comments on that, and then I'll go ahead to, or any questions, and then I'll go ahead through the rest of it.
It's the same shit we've been listening to for years. Well, it's the same.
I'm hearing them. Keep going, Al.
We've already gone over
wanted to
this.
acknowledge, thank you, Alan. This is Ozzy. I just wanted to thank you. That's a great overview. I really appreciate you taking our comments to heart and presenting in this format. It's really nice to see it all laid out this way.
Oh my
Perfect.
God.
Thank you.
I think the Director Edwards have a comment.
Yes, I did. I wanted to go back to the enhanced equity for the employees, and I'd like to get a little bit more detail as to what that looks like, what kind of timetable we're talking about for that training that's going to be implemented.
I didn't know
Yeah, Doug, I wonder if that's something that we should come back on.
Yeah,
I'm not the
you.
expert on this. I could give a very high level.
He doesn't know. He doesn't have any
miss important details.
Of course not. Why would he?
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, I think we're still fleshing that out, Director Edwards. Once we agreed on the capstone ones, then we're going to populate that in the draft business plan around actual timeframes.
It's just words on a piece of paper that sound good. It's all about sounding good. It's not about actually doing anything good.
But say bias training, things of that nature, sure are part of this fiscal year that we're actually in right now, let alone this is for next fiscal year beyond. So we've got a lot of things already underway or being developed right now for this fiscal year. So we can get back to you for sure if you'd like on some of the specifics, at least where we are.
And when they say get back to you, they never actually get back to you. I've never seen any of them ever get back.
If that's of interest.
Yes, it is. I just get concerned because with COVID piled on top of those particular issues, I get concerned about the well-being and the productivity, because studies have shown that when there is a enhanced diversity and inclusion program, along with addressing implicit biases and the microaggressions, that the well-being.
You see this? 10 million people have lost their jobs since March. 8 million people have fallen into poverty since June. And the government, including Trimet, has done nothing to stop this. All the government has done is steal all the money for the oligarchy, and everybody is dying, and it's getting crazier and crazier on the Trimet. And it's going to get crazier yet. All the employees should be getting bonus pay right now, hazard pay, because their lives are really at risk right now, and it's just going to get worse.
Goes up, the productivity goes up, the overall perception of a public entity as well as perceived by the customer base and business partners will go up also. And that's a major concern, as well as the well-being, of course, of the environment there at Trimet. And like you had mentioned before, General Manager, that the health and safety has to come first before we can get back to a place where our customer base is confident, so they can come back and be supportive and start utilizing the services that we offer. And that same holds true, I think, with our environment at Trimet. Because, like I say, with the COVID piled on top of this, it just puts an added burden.
Look, do you understand? No, none of you do, because you're all elites. Every one of these people involved in this meeting are elites. They don't understand what it is to be poor or what it is to be stuck on the bus. They don't have any clue. So they don't know what they're doing. I see what he's trying to say, and he's right. But I mean, this is just talk. Talk is cheap.
On addressing this in an efficient manner and as soon as possible.
Yeah, well, good luck with that.
Yeah, I think in fact, not violating privacy in any way, this is actually scheduled. We've been doing a strategic review of training fundamentally in the organization.
Better.
And so this is actually scheduled. I think Sam.
The drivers are clueless. They don't have it. They don't even know what the mask policies are. Okay, we hear it every day. What's the policy on masks? What's the policy on strollers? What's the policy on carts? The drivers are not trained it whatsoever. They don't know anything that's going on, apparently. But, here they are pretending that it's like everything is great.
Sue and team were scheduled to present that to me last week. Unfortunately, one of those teammates actually has COVID. So we've actually defer it until such time as they're able to come back. So I said, it's probably going to be, before they get back to me, I suspect, it's going to be late this calendar year or early in January. So I think I wouldn't mind seeing it first, and then maybe from that, then maybe we could follow up with you if you're comfortable.
Cool.
Yes, I'm comfortable with that. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Of course you're comfortable with it. You're not going to say anything other than that. We'll never hear it
Keep moving along, Alan, if we could.
Yeah, thank you for those very important points, Board Member Edwards. So, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and constraints. We've talked about these. Obviously, there are elements related to COVID-19 challenges and economic downturn that are now reflected that were not in the past. And excuse me. Recognizing, where we are now and some of the challenges that continue as well. And then finally, the premises, the basic assumptions that underlie this, again, reflecting budget realities and the projections, the economic projections from the state of Oregon that we're reflecting, you heard in the budget briefing that you just got, but also having added from our last conversation, for example, the urgent need to address systemic racism and equity needs, both within our agency and in the agency, and in the region as a whole, with regards to our service and investments. So that's the general overview. I don't want to go too far into details unless you want me to drill into anything. But with that, I would just remind you that we are, as I said, coming back to you in January with a draft business plan, which you will be able to take a look at, provide any comments you want at any level, and we are taking the information that you've already given us, the strategic thoughts and direction that you've already given that to us, and incorporating that in the draft, which we're developing between now and that time in January, at which time it will be available for comment by all. And that will be the FY22 through 26. So it's all, as always, it's a 5-year look ahead, and it will be starting July 1st of 2021.
You notice that Kelsey has not addressed, maybe he's going to get to it here, but he hasn't talked about the loss at the ballot box. He hasn't brought it up. Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Which is the same time that the budget that you will be considering soon after that.
Why are we hearing this? I want to hear about the other one.
That first year, anyway. With that, I will stop and see if there are any further questions or comments.
There's Kathy. Go ahead.
Yes, I do have just kind of 2 questions. One is just, how are we using existing ongoing public health information and data from OHA, from, all 3 of the counties that we serve, to make these decisions around our strategic priorities. Because I feel like that is definitely, and I'm using my public health background now, so, I think everything that we have to do moving forward, and I know that we have been incorporating this, but on a high level as a board member, I'm not really seeing the connection between, we're making our decision on, for example, social distancing between the mechanics, right? The 6 feet apart and the wearing of the mask and all that. In other words, how can we have a statement that's built into this future business plan around some of this public health metrics and the data and some of the research to just better inform how we can, really look at our operations and look at customer service and all these different areas. Because I think the science is important.
The science? What are you talking about, Kathy?
The transmission of this virus and how it's going to continue to impact our efforts. And so just also related to that, I don't know if we're also, involved in some of the different meetings or task force with public health officials around particularly, how how the transit system, public transit system, is being impacted by COVID. If we are showing up to this meeting.
So maybe I could talk to this one. So we are deeply connected in with the OHA on a daily basis, including I'm doing town halls. I think the board's aware of this every 2 weeks myself, and we bring in different topics and speakers. One of them, we actually had Dr. Vines here, and we're scheduled to have her come again in January. And we're going to be, so we are following, as you said, the science, and we have all the way along. Even back in May when the governor came out with her orders, the last round of orders, May 14th, if I remember, I had a 1 hour meeting directly with the governor, talking about specifically line by line.
Do you believe that we're under totalitarian dictatorship now? Where they actually give us orders and we comply because we're fucking sheeple. Okay, you're gonna believe the government? You're gonna believe that when the government tells you to do, you're gonna actually believe it? Are you out of your mind?
And the head of OHA was actually part of that meeting I had with them. So we are deeply connected all the way up to the governor's level as needed. And our safety security team is daily connected in with OHA. We even have people literally every day.
It has no relevance to Trimet bus operations or rail operations. There's nothing to do with anything that they're doing. It's, we listen to the operation. We listen to the actual operation. Nobody sitting here does. What happened?
What questions do you have that helps them? For example, the one coming in January, the first one in January I'm scheduling my town hall, will include what we think our rollout plan will be when transit's time comes up for vaccines. Then after that, the latter 2 weeks after that in January, the tentative plan is, and Dr. Brand I think is accepted, she's actually going to come and be part of the town hall to answer any questions around how am I going to feel? What is it? What are the side effects? So we are probably as deeply.
This vaccine has not been tested adequately. Okay, this is not. We don't know what it's going to do to you. I don't trust it. I'm not going to take it. Not for. I want it to be out at least a year before I'm going to take it. I'll stay home. I don't trust anything that's going on right now. Nothing.
Connected in as you can, and all of our decisions have all been based on science, including 3-foot distancing, 6-foot distancing. We follow WHO, etc. So, and we ask them areas where if we even run ideas by them. What do you think of this? What do you think of that? And so they've been an outstanding partner. I've got to tell you, and they deserve a lot of credit to helping us, frankly, with the exceptionally low case transmissions that we've actually had.
We have 50
I
goddamn
think
people
that's
got it
excellent,
over
Doug.
there.
I think the second part of what I was alluding to is how do we see that in the living document, right? I mean, it's great that you're saying we're doing all of this, we're doing science, we're hopefully evidence-based research around transit and safety. But if safety is one of the values that we have clearly bolded and emphasized.
Nobody is going to take transit that has an option not to. Transit is dead for the choice rider. It's all about transit-dependent people now. Nobody's going to get back on these systems. Are you crazy? It's already dirty and disgusting before all of this.
In the first couple pages of our business plan, then I would like to see us better articulate that in words, in a half a page or in a page of how we're going to continue to do that, layering, again, some of the public health research and the best practice.
Nothing to do with operations.
I think we can do that.
More work for Alan and your team to do, but I think we definitely need to have that lens as we're moving forward to making decisions.
We can certainly do that. The trick will be boiling down to half a page or a page because I know there's enormous amount of work going into it.
Bureaucracy
but happy to reflect that and find the right language to do that.
I thumbed up this thing.
Thank you.
All right, so I went too quickly. Other questions?
On that particular issue, I know that OSHA has new standards that they've put out as well. Is there a way that we could condense that, Alan, so that that we're complying with OSHA, but also we promote those same practices, and then maybe perhaps have a link or something like that, so it's not so wordy in regards to the customer base.
Yeah, we can certainly look for ways to summarize and then provide links. I think, though, I'm hearing two different interests from you. One is reflecting something in the business plan, and the other would be sort of a broader audience, perhaps. And so I'll bring that back to our communications folks about what that might look like. Because as much as I wish that everybody read the business plan, I know it's a relatively smaller audience.
Okay, thank you, Ellen. That's good feedback, good discussion. So you will see this back in January, again, then to get out for public consultation thereafter and input as we refine it and also match it with what you just saw from Dee and Nancy in the backdrop of our financial realities that we are facing. So knowing we're going through fiscal year 22 is the next cycle up. So thank you, Ellen. Mr. Board President, I've got two quick items I hope to move through here. I know this has been long. I just want to let you know that my next item is we have a semi-annual DBE report that we send to the FTA regarding federally funded contracts. So I normally don't raise that with the board, but I thought this
wasn't it interesting that he didn't address the referendum loss? Isn't that fucking fascinating that is not an agenda item here? That they just skipped right over it?
Submission had some really important highlights that I think all of you and all of this agency should be proud of.
I guess
and specifically, it showed that
I guess they did kind of gloss over it last time. He just said the voters voted, and that's that. But we're going to continue doing the environmental. They're continuing the project.
Of every $10 awarded between April and September this year actually went to DBE firms. It's the first time in our history that this has actually happened, and I think it's one time to be very proud of that. And another measure of note that some 35% of the
Well, I'm glad that the pork is being distributed to some other people besides the insiders. Everybody deserves to get on the pork, not just the insiders.
Contract awards under the prime contract awards also went to DBEs and benefited actually 22 firms in that same period of time. So that is new for this agency, and I think something everybody should be proud of. So I just thought I'd share that.
Pork barrel.
Can I clarification here? Is that across all capital project contracts, or what does that encompass?
Yeah.
Yes, all awarded capital projects.
Capital projects, of course.
Thank you.
I don't mean to rain on that, but is part of that number skewed by the Powell project?
Yeah, that's part of it.
Okay.
$1 is $1. So,
I understand. Thank you.
$1 is $1. Pork is pork.
But if we're always open to taking more money and to help do this even more, so bigger borrow. The final item is I do want to take a moment, if I may, Mr. Board President, to recognize one of our important executive directors who's made a really important decision, and that's to retire. Bernie Bottomley has chosen to retire, and this is his second tour of duty. And for those of all of us who've worked with him, he has been an amazing contributor to Trimet, to part of my leadership team. I know Neil McFarland before.
He's done nothing that affected anybody that's doing the work. Nothing. Who knows what he does all day? None of us do.
And to this region. He's been a great thought leader, and his last day will be January 18th. And Mr. Board President, I would like to submit a resolution that of honoring him and his great service to this agency. So if I may, if you're comfortable helping me get through that through your end and the board's comfort, I'd like to propose that.
Good. Well, would you like me to read that? Because obviously I feel awful about him leaving. This is bad news twice today. Well, I'm just hoping he's not going to work at Gresham for the new mayor. Well, let me do this. Let me read through this, because I think this is a very important resolution, and we do need to recognize Bernie for his years of service. So this is a resolution honoring Bernie Bottomley, and it's Resolution 20-12-44 of the Tri-County Metropolitan Transportation District of Oregon, honoring the Executive Director of Public Affairs, Bernie Bottomley, for his years of Trimet leadership. And it says, whereas the Trimet Metropolitan Transportation District of Oregon, Trimet, and its Board of Directors wishes to honor Bernie Bottomley for more than 16 years of dedicated work in service to this agency in the region. And whereas Bernie Bottomley has served as Trimet's Governmental Affairs Director for a decade, from 1992 to 2002, helping advance significant light rail and equity milestones for the agency. And whereas he successfully led the charge in the 1995 special session, securing $375 million in state funding for the South-North Light Rail Project. And whereas during his tenure, he organized the first regional coalition of senior and disabled transit provider organizations in 1997, unifying, amplifying, and creating a powerhouse of activists for the state legislature to grapple with for years to come. And whereas Bernie has most recently served as the Executive Director of Public Affairs for more than 6.5 years, from June 2014 to present, during which he's left an indelible mark on the agency and has created a legacy of lasting and positive change. And whereas Mr. Bottomley worked diligently with the Obama and Trump administrations to secure final federal funding for the MAC Orange Line project, and whereas his guidance and oversight were critical in the formation of the community-based, member-based House Bill 2017 committee, whose work was integral in the division of equitable shares of the new state resources, out of which came a permanent transit revenue source and the funding mechanism for Trimet's alternative fuel bus program, low-income fare program, and the student fare program subsidies. And whereas Bernie has demonstrated a staunch and long-standing support for organizations representing communities of color, low-income citizens, and people with disabilities, and his consistent advocacy for equitable practices help yield the decriminalization of Trimet fare enforcement system and a reevaluation of Trimet's safety and security practices. And whereas he has demonstrated strong team leadership, brilliant public policy acumen, and steadfast dedication to Trimet and the community we serve. And whereas his humor and levity have been infectious and will be truly missed, now therefore it be resolved that the Trimet Board of Directors and the Trimet staff hereby express their sincere gratitude to Bernie Bottomley for his dedicated service. Be it further resolved that a framed copy of this resolution will be presented to Bernie Bottomley as an expression of our heartfelt respect and appreciation. Great resolution. And with that, I'd like to ask if there's a motion to approve this resolution and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Did we get that? Was that you, Travis?
Yeah, Travis takes the second. Linda takes the motion.
All right.
God, Travis is gone too.
So is there discussion on this resolution?
Oh, no.
I'll go first.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead, Travis. All right.
Who's introducing us to your successor, Bernie?
Oh, God. Here we go.
That'll be the general manager.
All right. Well, certainly, I feel sorry for the rest of the board in that Bernie saw it as a requirement that with me stepping down, he needed to leave. He just said, "Wow, we've been working together for so long." No, all kidding aside, Bernie has absolutely contributed to our organization in so many ways, and not just the organization, but the entire community with his efforts. So greatly appreciate the opportunity to work with you, Bernie, and we've worked in other capacities throughout the years. In each of those capacities, there's just been great work done across all of those as we look at the impact that you've had on this community, the state even, and some of your earlier contributions and efforts and positions that you had even at the federal level. So I wish you well in your retirement, and I just can't say enough about all of the contributions you've made in the enjoyment that I've had working with you. So thank you, and good luck.
This is Linda. Hey, Bernie.
Oh God, we gotta listen to
You know, reading this,
go fast.
all of
because I think the benefits to this region will continue to be felt.
Executive team and the Public Affairs Division staff who have just been tremendous folks to work with, a really skilled team. You know, you're never appreciated at home. You know, folks around the country look at Trimet and the work that we do here with envy and admiration. They recognize Trimet as one of the leaders in the country around things like light rail, but also a lot of the other work that we do on equity, on this new effort to reimagine security on the system. I don't know that our local community recognizes that Trimet is a national, even international leader on this work, and really in our willingness to examine some of these questions.
In work? What the fuck are you talking about, you hack? International leader of what? Unbelievable fucking dick sucking going on.
Take on some of these hard issues. We're doing more in this arena than really anybody else is. And it's been a pleasure and a privilege to work with an organization that's willing to take on that hard work and to be as innovative and introspective as we have. And then finally to the board, you know, I've worked with a lot of you as you've been nominated for the board and helped identify folks in the community who might be willing to serve on the board, and to you I'd like to say I'm sorry. No, kidding. That you know, you do the public service that is the bedrock of
oh my God,
of the kind of government, small g, that is the benchmark, the hallmark of our community. That there are volunteers, people who are not getting paid, who are willing to spend their time and, you know, their energy serving the community as unpaid volunteers. Sometimes that's glamorous. I can't think of a time right now that it was glamorous, but I'm sure there are some. But a lot of the time it's grunt work. It's plowing through contract, you know, resolutions and identifying issues where, you know, the staff need additional guidance. But a lot of time it's taking flack for tough decisions that are unavoidable. There's only so many dollars in the piggy bank, and